I've had this Nikon AFS 14-24mm F2.8G lens for over 10 years, and I've taken it around the world to some amazing destinations, and I still use it to this day. This is my long-term review of this lens. When this F-mount Nikon 14-24mm F2.8 first came out, it was hailed as a technological masterpiece from many photographers. In fact, it was so popular, it was continually in short supply. I bought this lens back in 2012 for my then Nikon D850 camera. My main aim was to use it for both landscape and astrophotography. But other photographers did and still are using this lens for things like architecture, automotive, weddings, real estate, and street photography. It had a brilliant reputation for its remarkable edge-to-edge performance, superb colors, and excellent contrast across its zoom range. I even used it for some portrait shots. The other thing that appealed to me and actually prompted me into buying this lens was the fact that it had an internal zoom. So that meant that it had better balance and better weather sealing when I was out in harsher conditions. Today, I mainly use this lens for low light and astrophotography on both my Nikon D850 and D750 cameras. I've taken this lens to places like New Zealand, Iceland, Scotland, Hawaii, Japan, and all around Australia. Here's a montage of sample images from all of those destinations using the Nikon 14-24mm F2.8G lens. I even took this lens to the Lord of the Rings Hobbiton movie set in New Zealand, and yes, Hobbiton really does exist. My wife and I went on a night tour there, which ended with dinner at the Green Dragon, and for those Lord of the Rings fans, you'll know what the Green Dragon is. I only used this Nikon 14-24mm lens that night paired with my D850 and was super happy with the results. And if you ever do get the chance, make sure you check this place out while you're in New Zealand because it really is magic. especially at night when it's all lit up with traditional old lanterns. And the banquet meal they served was just sensational. I actually don't use this lens that much for landscape photography anymore, although realistically I should, because it is a pretty amazing lens. What I do now is I use the Nikon 16-35mm F4 VR lens for that. But what I'm going to be doing in the future is I'll do a versus video where I have this lens up against that one. So if that's something that may interest you, make sure you subscribe and keep your eyes open for that video. The pros for me when it comes to this Nikon 14-24mm F2.8G lens is that it certainly is sharp enough in terms of image quality, well, for me anyway. I like that it has a variable focal length between 14 and 24mm, so I can just micro adjust my framing to get that perfect composition I'm after. It has an internal zoom which protects it better when I'm in harsh conditions. And basically it's super easy to use, having just the zoom and a manual and auto switch for focusing on the side. The cons on this lens, well, just a few. Firstly, it is a little heavy compared to my other modern wide-angle lenses I own in both F and Z mounts. So when you're traveling or hiking, it can get a little bit weighty in your camera bag after a bit of time lugging it around. Secondly, filters. Yes, you can get filters for this lens, but in today's standards, they're a bit of a pain to put on. And dollars-wise, they're very expensive and larger, like the size of a small dinner plate. That makes those filters a bit difficult to travel with as they're a bit big and cumbersome to fit into your camera bag. Lastly, because of the bulbous front end of the lens, you have to be extra careful with it. You can't put a screw-on UV filter to help stop any accidental scratches. And if you do drop this lens, that front glass element is normally the first part to hit the ground, which basically rides it off instantly. And I have heard and seen this actually happening to a lot of other photographers. One thing I have noted about this lens is that it has kept its value. Here in Australia, brand new, it retails for about $2,500. I've seen it secondhand on eBay in mint condition, and those copies go from anywhere from $1,500 to $1,700. It's an amazing lens, and that's why I've always kept it. But what I'm going to be doing is comparing this lens to my other wide-angle lenses, that's the F mount, as well as the Z mount, so make sure you subscribe. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this long-term review of the Nikon AFS 14-24mm F2.8G lens. Never stop creating, and I'll see you next time.